Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Merry Christmas!
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, the world's greatest horror movie podcast. In this episode, my weird dad will be talking about
I told you he'd be happy that we remembered him.
This Christmas, Santa's going to make everyone happy. The grown-ups and the kids. Christmas evil. The non-believers. And the screamers. And this Christmas, you better believe in Santa, or he'll slay you.
Merry Christmas, Frank!
Christmas evil, the night he dropped in.
Hello, and welcome to this special holiday horror edition of Wake Up Heavy Recollections of Horror. Today I will be talking about Lewis Jackson's 1980 Yuletide terror film, Christmas Evil. And in lieu of a psychotronic entry, I'm going to read the back of the VHS box for this because it's all kinds of wrong and a little bit funny. As a boy, he saw Mommy making love to Santa Claus. As an adult, he is a crazed killer who has kept a list of all the girls who have been good and all the girls who have been bad. It's Christmas time and all the bad girls are in trouble. A man dressed as Santa Claus is stalking the streets, brutally murdering innocent girls. Who's to say if the kindly old gent whose knee your daughter sits upon is a maniacal murderer? Starring Brandon Maggart. Oh, they misspelled his name. Jeffrey DeMunn, directed by Lewis Jackson, whose name is also misspelled. I don't know who wrote this, but the movie they are describing is not Christmas Evil. It is pretty obvious that they are trying to attach this to the slasher subgenre, and it's not that. And that was one of the things that first struck me when I watched this, is that it was not like a lot of the other Christmas or holiday horror films that got tossed out in the 80s, and it actually has a very interesting psychological angle to it. If you rented the movie back then, based on that VHS box, I think you would have been sorely disappointed. I was sort of expecting a Christmas slasher when I watched this for the first time, And after the first act of the film, I realized that we had something totally different going on here. And I was happy for that. And there are a lot of odd touches throughout, which is something that I thoroughly enjoy in movies in general and horror movies specifically. And I think after Black Christmas, it has become my second favorite holiday horror film. So if it's not about a deranged Santa stalking naughty girls on the streets, what is it about? Well, it's about a lonely guy who is frustrated and saddened by the state of the world, and that is represented by Christmas, by the ideal of Christmas, and he is frustrated by the consumerism and hypocrisy that he sees all around him. And this all starts back when he is a young boy, and we do have a flashback here, when he and his younger brother Philip and his mom are watching Santa come down their chimney and leave presents. He and his brother go back up to their bedroom, and his younger brother, who is only about 6 at the time, kind of makes fun of him for still believing in Santa Claus and saying, "You realize that is Dad." And so the boy goes back downstairs, sees Santa and his mom having sexy time, not having sex though, that's not shown on screen, or at least the version I watched. And so his ideal is shattered. When we next see Harry, he is working at the Jolly Dream toy factory in, I think, what you could consider a thankless job. His coworkers take advantage of him. His boss is only concerned about the bottom line, and Harry just wants to make kids happy. We find out fairly quickly that he is obsessed with Christmas and with Santa Claus. He sleeps in Santa PJs. He has Christmas cards and Christmas decor all throughout his house. Christmas music is playing nonstop. There are toys everywhere in his house, and of course, he works in a toy factory. He takes that obsession a little too far and spies on the kids in the neighborhood to see if they are being good or bad, and actually writes down what they're doing in a book. He's got his good and bad Santa checklist. While he is doing this spying, he comes across Mas Garcia, who ends up being his child nemesis throughout the film, either looking at or requesting from Santa Penthouse magazines. As we see Harry become more disheartened, he becomes more unstable as well. There's this is one of the kind of freaky little touches that I like, where he is manically humming Christmas carols to himself. And then he pulls off a very Grinch Who Stole Christmas style scene of constructing his very own Santa costume. He doesn't go and buy one like a lot of the other Santa slashers do. He makes his own, and I have to say it is a very nice Santa costume. He also turns his van into a sleigh and has the delusion that it has been trained by Santa's reindeer. The final straw for Harry is at his Christmas party when he discovers that the charity that the company's owner has set up is really just a scam to get the workers to produce more and for them to pitch in their own money. He has another run-in with Mas Garcia, his child nemesis, who he stalks at his home and sees his mom slap him for making her late.
There's something in the bushes! It's a monster! It tried to grab me!
Look, I have had all I'm going to take from you.
There's something horrible in there! Ow!
Now you get in the car! Go on.
At this point in the film, we get this kind of back and forth between him acting very Santa-like and giving toys to the kids in this hospital that this charity was supposed to be set up for, and then turning around and killing 3 people who just got out of midnight mass, and then going to a party and being very Santa Claus-like again, but then going to his coworker's house and murdering him in his bed while his wife is sleeping next to him. And this is another one of those interesting touches when the wife finally wakes up and sees what's happening. She can't get out a scream, and you don't really see that done very effectively in movies too often, and I thought that was a nice little realistic touch to the scene. Another nice touch is when he tries to actually climb down a chimney and gets stuck, and the frustration on his face is kind of touching in a way, and we do feel sympathy for this guy even though he is doing horrible, horrible things. We have him practicing his Merry Christmas delivery.
Merry Christmas! 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 Merry Christmas!
And the soundtrack, or the soundscape, is reminiscent to me in parts to Eraserhead. Which is probably purely coincidental, but anything that puts me in mind of Eraserhead automatically catches my attention. And Brandon Maggart's acting as Harry, his line delivery, his facial expressions throughout really enforce that disheartened feeling that the character has. And this is a guy who has acted for years. He was on Sesame Street, like 27 episodes of Sesame Street as somebody named Buddy, and yet I don't recognize his face from anything other than this film. He did a lot of episodic television throughout the years. He's been in Dressed to Kill, The World According to Garp, which are a couple of my favorite films, Murder, She Wrote. I just really can't see him in anything else for some reason. I don't know if it's just the way his face is, but he really does a lot of great subtle work here. I mean, he's over the top in some of the more manic scenes, but there's something going on underneath, and he portrays that well. The director of the movie, Lewis Jackson, had only done 2 previous films that, from their description on IMDb, appear to have been softcore porn or exploitation films. And he produced a couple of others along the way, but not a whole heck of a lot. But there is some interesting stylistic choices here, mostly in the finale of the film where we have this street lined with, I think they're Santa sleighs, like blow mold Santa's sleighs, and it's a very effective shot. During that scene, we have an actual angry mob with torches chasing after Harry. And so there's a nice little kind of throwback all the way back to Frankenstein, the original Frankenstein. And I think I read somewhere that his inspiration was the story of Frankenstein's monster, this misunderstood character who, of course, Frankenstein kills mainly on accident because he doesn't know any better. But maybe that idea of the innocent. Harry is a lot like a child. And then I just saw the other day someone posted on Twitter about an article they had written regarding this movie and how it was the taxi driver of holiday horror films. And I didn't want to read the article just yet. I'll save it for later, but I will link it on the show notes for this. I didn't want to take too much from that, but I can totally see that. Harry is our Travis Bickle in this.
I got some bad ideas in my head.
And I kept thinking of the Michael Douglas film Falling Down, about a man driven to the edge, pissed off about everybody and their lack of decorum, their lack of manners, their lack of politeness. And that is how Harry feels, and that ideal is all wrapped up into Christmas and the Christmas spirit, and he sees that is missing from most people now. Speaking of the finale of the film, the end of the movie gets debated a lot, and I don't want to go into it here because I think you need to see it and make up your own mind. I don't think the movie itself takes a firm stand one way or the other, whether something otherworldly happens or not. It's confusing. There are two ways to look at it, and the movie kind of presents both ways, which may have just been an error in sound editing. So I'm going to leave it super vague, and you need to watch the movie and decide for yourself. One thing that stuck out to me about this film specifically, and just horror in general, is how the flashback was a traumatic event for Harry, and how so much of horror is based on past trauma. And it's been tossed around more recently in the last 3 or 4 years that this is kind of something new with films like Hereditary and Midsommar, but it's really been around for a much longer time, and I think that's why a lot of these films have flashbacks. And it just made me think of stuff like The Haunting of Julia, The Changeling, and this film, where that past trauma can either manifest itself supernaturally or cause the protagonist or antagonist's mental breakdown. I mean, my God, the first Friday the 13th is about past trauma. So much of this cast, and I love it when this happens, and I talk about these all the time when it does come up, but a lot of these faces are going to be recognizable, especially if you're closer to my age. But we have Jeffrey DeMunn, one of Frank Darabont's favorites, who has been, I think, in all of his King adaptations and was in the first few seasons of The Walking Dead. We have Diane Hull from Girls on the Road, which co-starred Michael Ontkean from Twin Peaks fame. Mas Garcia's mom, who slaps him in the face for making her late, is played by Patricia Richardson from Home Improvement. And then we've got a couple of those character actors who you'll recognize, Peter Friedman and Raymond Berry, and they're both those kind of guys who always play assholes. It's just something about their faces. Raymond Berry was in Falling Down, coincidentally enough, a couple of episodes of The X-Files, and I think he's on that new show Succession, which I haven't watched. We have Mark Margolis of Breaking Bad fame and dozens of other shows and movies. And then I had to go down a little rabbit hole here. I was trying to figure out this one person's name and where I recognized him from, and it was absolutely driving me bonkers. One of Harry's co-workers at the factory who shows up, I think, in 2 scenes. And so I was sitting there trying to pay attention to the movie, but being really bothered by the fact that I couldn't figure out where I knew him from. And I was clicking on every name in the credits on IMDb, and nothing was ringing a bell. I was Google searching everybody's names, and it would bring up just random people that had the same name. And so it was driving me bonkers, and I waited until the credits of the film rolled, and they kind of had it by scene or by relation to Harry. So there would be the workers at the factory listed all at the same time. The kids were listed. And since I knew it was one of the factory workers, I paused it and again looked at all the names, tried my Google search again, and finally his face popped up. And I realized that they had him listed on IMDb as he appears in the credits, but he goes by a shorter name now. So they had him as Lloyd David Hart, but he actually goes by David Hart. And he was in Silver Bullet, a bunch of other stuff, as well as playing Parker Williams in The Heat of the Night for God knows how many episodes. And I was like, that's it. So I went into IMDb to try and fix that, but it's still showing the wrong actor on there currently. Hopefully it gets fixed at some point. Sometimes these things never get fixed, and I don't know if they try to confirm with the actors at all or their agents. And they may just decide not to want that listed under his actual name.
What are you even talking about?
And then a really odd appearance is towards the end of the film from Retanya Alda, who has been in a gazillion things. I just discovered that she is the voice of Dr. Hill's answering service in Rosemary's Baby. Now, take that with a grain of salt because this is IMDb. But she was in The Deer Hunter, one of my favorite movies, The Long Goodbye, The Dark Half, tons of TV, and in one of my favorite sleazy films, Amityville 2, The Possession. And even though there are a ton of Murder, She Wrote connections here, I think the largest common denominator between these actors is actually Law and Order. The movie is probably more famous for one of its fans than for the movie itself, and that is John Waters. He has stated numerous times that this is his favorite Christmas horror film, and he shows it to anybody who will sit and watch it. And most likely because of him, this has become kind of a cult favorite for a lot of people. And as I mentioned early on, I think it is my second favorite Christmas horror film, and there are a lot out there. And because of that, things can get really confusing. And so I wanted to sort of end here with the Christmas horror movie title conundrum, because most of these films came out under multiple titles. Christmas Evil is also known as You Better Watch Out, and that is the title that I watched it under on Showtime. So if you have Showtime either through your cable provider or if you have it as an add-on service on Hulu or Amazon Prime, you can search it under that title. But don't get You Better Watch Out confused with Better Watch Out, the 2016 Christmas home invasion horror film. It was also known as Terror in Toyland. Shudder has it, I think they still have it, as Christmas Evil. Black Christmas, my all-time favorite Christmas horror film, is also known as Stop Me and Silent Night, Evil Night, and in a very edited version as Stranger in the House. Another movie that I rewatched the other day, sort of not in prep for this, but because I was in the mood, is the very interesting Silent Night, Bloody Night with Mary Woronov, and that goes by Night of the Dark Full Moon. Its original title was Zora, and it was later re-released as Death House. And then, of course, maybe the most famous Santa slasher, Silent Night, Deadly Night, aka Sleigh Ride. Get it? Sleigh Ride.
It's not that funny.
And God knows how many others. So they all have that Silent Night part in there, or a lot of them do, as alternate titles. So just be careful what you're getting yourself into. Okay, I think this will be the last episode for December and for 2019. I know I had something else in mind, but I'll probably save it until I come back in February. I will do the look back at 2019 episode sometime here soon and release it in January so that you don't miss my voice too much.
That doesn't sound right.
And I'm going to throw up a questionnaire if you would care to take a look at it and answer these simple questions. I may offer up some of that information in that look back episode. If I don't get any replies, obviously I won't do that. But just some more for my research about how you came to the show, how you listened to it, when, why, where, and all that kind of fun stuff. So I'll post a link on the show notes for this. I'll post a link on the blog itself on the sidebar there. I'll post a link on SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook, etc. So, take a couple minutes out of your day and answer those questions, and I will offer up the results. And if it doesn't happen for that show, maybe I'll insert some of that in future episodes. And I will get to the We Are Still Here appreciation episode probably in February. And after that, who knows? Maybe back to the full-length episodes. I have a couple ideas in mind of movies that I've been meaning to get to for a while. So let's end here with the Wake Up Heavy watch list. I was happy to discover the other day that Epix has been added to our cable lineup, which I guess they're making up for taking Cinemax away from us. I don't know. But we have Epix and ScreenPix now, so I'll be digging through their catalogs. I was excited, though, because that meant I got to watch The Prodigy, which is a film I had been looking forward to since it first came out. And that stars the little guy who played Georgie in, I guess, both It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. And he is a creepy killer kid. I watched Aniara on Hulu, which is a pretty good Swedish or Swiss sci-fi film. Did a rewatch of Blue Velvet. I was still kind of on my David Lynch kick. And that made me then watch something that I'm pretty sure I watched a few years back called Midnight Movies, From the Margin to the Mainstream, a documentary about those first 6 true midnight movies. And it was directed by the guy who wrote the book that I have, that I think I've referenced from time to time on the show. And by happenstance, one of those midnight movies, The Harder They Come, played on TCM that very same night. And I watched a little bit of it because my girls were doing other stuff. And then I recorded the rest and finished it off. And that is one of the few of those midnight movies that I had yet to see. I watched Christmas Evil for the show and Silent Night, Bloody Night for the heck of it. That was inspired by Sam Panico doing a review of it on his site, BNS About Movies. And that is an interesting one. It's a little sloppy and the print is not very good. It's in the public domain, so there are numerous crappy prints out there. But it's got a lot of the Andy Warhol Factory group in it in a couple scenes. And Mary Warnoff was involved with that as well. Pretty interesting. Kind of a creepy little number. The family watched Home Alone on Disney Plus and The Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. You can't get much better than that. I finally broke down and rented Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I am currently on my 3rd watch of that. I used to be a big Tarantino fan. I'm not so much anymore. I've enjoyed his last 3 films to an extent, but I actually really like this. There's something interesting about this, and I know there's been a lot of controversy about numerous things in the movie, and a lot of it I don't get and I don't agree with, but it is a fascinating film and an interesting take on that era. And that will do it for this watch list. Okay, so I hope everybody had a wonderful 2019. Here's to an even better 2020, or 2020, I guess we should say. And I will see you on the other side. Don't forget,
anything can happen when you wake up heavy. Ho, 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 ho.
Christmas.